Hi there. So I have been going through in the last few videos some of the statuses that I have posted on social media, and I've been analysing them and just embellishing on them further and talking about them. So that is what this video is about today. I'm going to go through another rather long status that I posted on social media a few days ago. But before I do that, I would like to give a shout out and a big hello to two lovely starseed angels that I met yesterday who watched my videos. Their names are Ivy and Coco. So hello Ivy, hello Coco. Just like to say it was so lovely to meet you yesterday. You're both just so lovely and you were so very well behaved. Thank you so much for that. And you are an absolute credit to your mum and dad. So it was lovely to meet you both, and I just wanted to say hello. Okay, so I'm going to now read the status that I posted on social media. Can you please tell me how I can clear my family's karma? There are multiple methods for this. Visualizations work wonders with the path clearing. The spiritual cliche, working on yourself, is really key here. For as you work on yourself, you break that cycle of passing down blueprints to your descendants, and you also heal the ancestral upline, as there is no time in this work. Karma itself, a whole other topic, is very misunderstood and is not the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth interpretation that many hold. Karma is just a simplified way of explaining that you are carrying a genetic blueprint for specific experience. And one of the reasons you are incarnated at this time is to change that genetic ancestral blueprint, or to keep it, depending on its alignment with you and your life's map, or indeed to upgrade it. This will allow your descendants to be born without limitations, a pattern reduction, placed within their DNA code. And there are literally multiple ways for you to do this. Your karmic healing filters into the wider world and beyond your genetic line until eventually you are healing the planetary and galactic grids when you do this work. Yet you do not need to think in these terms, or even in the terms that you hold a family responsibility to clear their karma. If you are able to hold this expansive thought without confusion, then move into that knowing. But you do not have to do this in order to do the clearing. Simply work on yourself, your beliefs, lifestyle, spiritual path, etc. Every single starseed, light worker, ascending individual is here to do the same thing in their own unique way. When we change a core ancestral template on the individual level, and we all do this simultaneously with others, we change the ancestral templates for all humanity and Earth, and that is ascension. The 9 present much deeper explanations of ancestral clearing in my third book, Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, most specifically in chapter 45, Sins of the Father. They provide a visualization template taking you into the core 6th dimensional pre-matter template and directly to the genetic blueprints themselves. This visualization allows you to communicate directly with the DNA through the language of light and clear, transform, upgrade those genetic blueprints. This is relevant to experience, as in what most people term karma, including illness, disease, suffering, abuse cycles, poverty incarnations, etc., right into immortality itself. So that was the status. That was the status I posted on social media. And so this is the book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame. And it is chapter 45, The Sins of the Father. And they talk about, in that chapter, obviously the entire book is talking about matrix transportation and Stargate ascension, but one particular aspect of Stargate ascension, celestial Stargate ascension specifically, that's important is what they may call, there are many names for this, ancestral clearing. And they talk about why it's important to do this. because you're not just subject to your own karma in inverted commas, as I said, that's a whole other subject, but you take on karma, if you like, the genetic blueprints of your ancestors and pass them down to your descendants, as was said in the status on social media. So I'm going to go through this. I mean, this video, I may not be able to get through every single analysis of this, so I may continue this into further videos. But to start with, obviously the question was, can you please tell me how to clear my family's karma? So really, the person who asked this question had been told by someone else that they were here to clear their family's karma. So they were asking how this can be done. Obviously, karma is a whole other subject, and it is interpreted in the way that the 9 said here, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, as in you do this, I'll do this back to you, or you do this and you will incarnate again and you will have that done to you. That's a very linear third dimensional interpretation of karma, which is an energetic pattern that is simply a repeating cycle as it goes down that fractal genetic blueprint line. So that can be changed. And if it isn't changed, that blueprint, that genetic blueprint, ancestral blueprint, and it's not just genetic, it's pre-incarnate as well. So genetic and pre-incarnate are very intertwined and are in many cases the same thing, meaning you can incarnate down your own genetic line. So you may well have been your great-grandfather or your great-grandmother. That's another way of interpreting that. But to look at that on a wider scale, that genetic blueprint gets passed down, and sometimes it doesn't actually activate, if you like, that blueprint, that gene expression doesn't activate in that person because they haven't come into alignment with the catalyst to activate that blueprinted pattern. But it's still there within their fields, and if they do come into the catalyst, or if they do trigger it in some way, then that manifests within them, and it can be a very, very positive and most wanted genetic blueprint, and it can be a most negative one that is not wanted. So really it's about becoming sovereign and in a place of awareness and knowing, so that you may be able to understand what these genetic blueprints are and how to change them and how to clear them. And as I said, the exercise is given in chapter 45 of Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame. So there are multiple methods for this. There are many, many ways this can be done. The information the 9 give is simply one tool to do this. And there are hundreds of teachers out there teaching karma clearing, or they may call it matrix re-imprinting, or they may call it clearing past lives, deep hypnotic trance sessions to work with issues in your past lives, or QHHT. All of these things are the same thing. Soul retrieval. It's all really the clearing of that which has gone before, or that which could come again, or that which is above, or that which is below, that is not serving you, that is no longer in alignment with you. You are becoming sovereign and taking control of your own energetic makeup, your own energetic blueprint, and your own matrix. Normally, I say normally, in most cases, at least on this planet, up until this point, within our known history, we have gone through the death experience, and then we have gone through these blueprints and worked through them, and allowed the soul to move into learning and expansion and clearing from the levels of non-physical perspective. Ascension is about doing this work from the physical body. That's why many channels and messengers and conduits will say you take the body with you. What you do is you do the work within the body rather than waiting until you have left the body. So visualizations work wonders with the path clearing, and they really, really do. And the reason for that is because when you visualize something, you are creating If it is a visualization with power and intention, then this becomes a cohesive language of light template. This is your way of decoding the reality around you through the right hemisphere of the brain. This template, when it is cohesive and aligned and is set within your fields, creates a match within the DNA. The DNA matches the visualization. So if you are visualizing, for example, something very simple like within your sacred sanctuary space, you visualize that there is a very beautiful field or a meadow, and you just imagine that there are some little cleanup fairies going around with a dustpan and brush, cleaning up all the dust and all the rubbish and making the place look beautiful. That in itself can work if the visualization is cohesive and aligned. Obviously, the 9 are working in a more 6th dimensional visualization with this exercise that they provide in chapter 45. But as I said, there are many, many teachers out there working with karma clearing in this way. The spiritual cliche, working on yourself, is really key here. So we've all heard this phrase, working on yourself, or work on yourself, or do the work. And what does that really mean? It's really difficult for people who are first coming into this. Work on yourself. What does that mean? Well, the reason why working on yourself is key here is when you work on yourself, in the simplest form of explanation, you are simply improving yourself. You are becoming the best version of yourself that you can, if you like. And this will include your health, your nutrition, your physical body, so exercise, your entire lifestyle in that area, and the furthering of your belief system, your paradigm, your mind, your behavior. It will be part of your calling or your striving to be the better person or the best person that you can be. You know, you can go through one of those days where you think, I've just messed up today and I've been really awful and I shouldn't have said what I said to that person and I shouldn't have done that thing, and you regret things you've done in that day, and then that makes you reevaluate, and next time you're faced with a similar situation you behave in a different way. That is kind of what I mean in the most basic way. That can be taken a step further into things like yoga, things like a particular spiritual path or a religious path if you're following that, or things like karma clearing and energetic work and connection with your higher guides and meditation, all of these things. And the reason why working on yourself in this way is key is because when you do this, you are in the process of ancestral karma clearing. You don't actually need to do anything else. You don't need to do this visualization that the 9 have given. They're giving this as a tool for you to utilize, a fast tracking tool, if you will, because you're using the language of light and communicating to the DNA or with the DNA or reforming or restructuring the DNA when you utilize this visualization. And there are, as I've said, there are many other methods to do this, but you don't have to do this. Simply working on yourself is karma clearing, because you're changing your energetic pattern and you are ending or changing or reconstructing or upgrading or keeping that which serves you. The minute you work in a multidimensional way, you go into a thought process that is out of time, out of linear time. And therefore, when you work, the reason why this works through the ancestral line and clears karma for the family that you have incarnated now and the family that you did have thousands and thousands of years ago, or the pre-incarnate line, is because you are moving into the 0 point zone where all is one and you are unified with your genetic family. This does go obviously beyond your genetic family and into the collective consciousness, which is discussed later in this social media post. So when you are working on yourself, you are ancestrally clearing these blueprints, these genetic blueprints. And this works, it says later in the post, this works on the upline as well as the descendants. So you're not just clearing family karma for your descendants. So it's like, if I clear this karma now, then my daughter and my son that's yet to be born will not have that genetic blueprint within them. That's kind of not how it works. That's a linear interpretation. You clear a genetic blueprint that is sitting within a non-linear position within your DNA field. So when you clear it within your son and daughter who are already born. You clear it within the ancestors who have already lived, and you clear it within all your family members, depending on how receptive they are to the signal that you are sending. And what you're doing is you're using a non-locational quantum field where that which you do affects others simply because you share the same field. I think this is explained in physics as quantum entanglement. So if you want to know more on a physics level, check out what quantum entanglement means. That explains what I'm trying to say here. That's how it works. So the spiritual cliche, and it is a spiritual cliche, and some people can hear working on yourself and think, oh, please, not that again. But it is so important. And it's really key here, for as you work on yourself, you break that cycle of passing down the blueprints to your descendants. So I've just explained that. You also heal the ancestral upline, as there is no time in this work. So I've just explained that as well. You are healing down the line, those yet to be born, and you are healing up the line, those who have already been born, those who live now, those who lived thousands of years ago. There's no time in this work. Karma itself, a whole other topic, is very misunderstood, as I have already said, and is not the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth interpretation that many hold. So yes, many people will, see somebody do something or say something that they disagree with, or that they think is bad, or they interpret as being wrong, and they'll go, karma's going to get you. And I see this a lot. And whilst that is correct, it isn't really, it doesn't really work in that way. Karma isn't this arrow waiting to sort of get you because you've been bad or you've done something wrong, and like karma's going to get you now. It's not that like that. Karma really explains these genetic blueprints I'm talking about. That they are simply points of perspective that create a match within the physical reality. So when you're in the physical reality, you line up energetically with those blueprints and you become a match to them, and they can be anything. They can be manifested as a thought, an action, a word, anything you do, anything you think, anything you act within, anything you create, everything you do has a match, because you live in a magnetic reality. And that's what karma is, really. It's not a revenge strategy. It isn't a punishment. It's a reflection. It's better explained by using the word reflection. So the 9 go on to say here, karma is just a simplified way of explaining that you are carrying a genetic blueprint for specific experience. So this blueprint isn't just for genetic material, the color of your hair, the color of your eyes. It isn't just for talents, such as you're going to be really good at singing or an excellent writer. It isn't just about your personality traits. It's about experience that you will go through, because you have planned out from that higher perspective a mission for yourself, or certain things that you need to experience, certain places you may need to visit, people you need to meet, that will become catalysts for you to be able to line up with that blueprint. So these genetic blueprints are, as I've said, potentially really, really good and really, really positive, and you need them because they are catalysts to your entire awakening. But there are also genetic blueprints that are no longer useful for you because they may be genetic blueprints for experiences that you don't need those catalysts. For example, the catalyst could be an illness. You don't need that illness in this reality to learn the lesson or experience the experience. You can do that without the illness, depending on where you are in your own awakening. And then, with going off into a tangent, these blueprints have been hijacked as well by service to self, extraterrestrial, individualized personality structures. They're not really individualized actually, but they are personalities, if you like. And they have understood how to manipulate the energetic field of this planet and of each individual human. So there is infiltration going on as well. So you are becoming sovereign when you move into this karma clearing. You are taking control, and none of this needs to worry you. A dark negative blueprint for some illness that's in your genetic makeup, or a hijacking from some dark extraterrestrial from some other galaxy. These things do not need to worry you. They really don't, because you have absolutely the power to become immune from that. And I've had people comment before saying it's not possible to become immune from dark infiltration. I can categorically tell you that that is not the case. It is absolutely possible to become immune from hijacking. That is what we are doing in the ascension process. That is sovereignty. That is cohesive sovereignty within an individualized structure that is you. That is your journey. This is self-empowerment. This is enlightenment. And there are certain patterns that you are able to create that make you immune from this hijacking. How? Well, the hijacking takes place throughout the third and the fourth dimension. There are potentially some areas that are fifth dimensional, but they are not fully within that realm, if you will. It's difficult to explain. There is an overlap. So perhaps at the very early levels, if you like, of the fifth dimension, there is some distortion if you find yourself there. It's rare to find yourself there because fifth dimensional energy is pure unconditional love and is a complete match to pure unconditional love. It is the dimension of the heart, and hijacking cannot take place there because heart energy, love, and all the emotions that are connected to love, such as bliss, happiness, joy, euphoria, gratitude, forgiveness, and all those emotions, they are emotions that are frequencies that move above the fourth dimensional matrix. They bypass the fourth dimensional matrix. That I'm speaking of, those heart-centered blueprints, are the very fabric of the fifth dimension. And if you want to talk in more scientific terms, more geological terms, more matter terms, they are the creation of what is known as fourth density, which is a different model to explain the shift in densities or dimensions. So the heart-centered code within the fifth dimension would be the pre-matter blueprints for the fourth density. It's kind of the same thing, but it is slightly different as well. So there is your immunity. And in my first book, Masters of the Matrix, the entire book, the entire transmission is about finding immunity from hijacking. So I would respectfully disagree with anyone who feels that it's not possible to find immunity from dark hijacking. The problem is, for you who have this paradigm, for you have put yourself into a place where it is not possible for you to become immune to hijacking because your belief system is locking in to your patterning. Therefore, you won't be able to transcend the fourth dimensional trappings and hijackings. So I would strongly advise you to reevaluate your paradigm without being condescending. And I absolutely embrace your viewpoint, but it is not correct in the full multidimensionality. Now, it is correct in the fourth dimension. So if you are thinking fourth dimensionally and third dimensionally, you are correct in the sense that you can't become immune without embracing the higher dimensions. So you're not going to find immunity in the third dimension alone. Everywhere you go, there is hijacking. You are not going to find immunity in the fourth dimension alone, or the third and fourth combined, because everywhere you go, there is a hijacked network. It is the fifth dimension and above that will give you your immunity. And in the first book that I brought forward, The Transmission from the Nine Masters of the Matrix, they work on a sixth dimensional level with the template that they bring forward to assist with this immunity. And the same with Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, the visualization I'm speaking about that assists you with your ancestral clearing, the chapter, The Sins of the Father. That is also a sixth dimensional model and template. Doesn't matter whether you use 5D, 6D, 7D, whatever. And 7D is more sound, so music. That's another way to clear, is to become merged with sound, merged with music that is of the frequency of the golden mean or the Fibonacci sequence. One of these particular frequencies would be the solfeggio frequencies, or solfeggio, however that's pronounced. I don't really know that much about them other than the information I have from the nine, that these frequencies are toning the tone or the tune of the golden mean equation Fibonacci sequence. And that is the emotion of bliss. Therefore, that will give you immunity, and that will give you ancestral clearing. It's all the same thing. That is the tone for enlightenment and self-realization. So karma is just a simplified way of explaining that you are carrying a genetic blueprint for specific experience. And one of the reasons you incarnated at this time is to change that genetic ancestral blueprint. So one of the reasons you incarnated is to change that blueprint. So the person who asked the question had someone say, you are here, a medium or a channel or a tarot reader or whoever the person was, you are here to clear your family's karma. That was the only information given to this person. So obviously this person's like, okay, how do I do that and what does it mean? The person was right who said you're here to clear your family's karma, because every starseed is here to do this. Every awakened individual is here to do this. They are here to change the genetic blueprint, because when we all get together and do this, we change the entire blueprint for the planet, which the nine discuss later in this status. So one of the reasons you are incarnated at this time is to change that genetic ancestral blueprint. Lots of people will say, why are we here? Why are we incarnated into this physical body? Well, if you've listened to my previous video entitled Starseed Alchemy and the Blueprint Vortex, you will know that there is not one reason for something. Therefore, there is not one singular reason why you and I are incarnated in physical form right now in the third dimension. There are multiple reasons for that, but one of the reasons is to clear this family karma, or to change the genetic ancestral blueprint, or to keep it, depending on its alignment with you. So as I said, if that blueprint is in alignment with you, you're not going to want to remove it. You're not going to want to change it. But you don't even have to understand this technically. You don't have to sit there and think, okay, what if I change the wrong blueprint and get rid of the one I need and keep the one I don't need? You do not need to worry about that. Let that thought, normal though it is, within an ascension and within an awakening individual, let that flow away from you. You do not need that thought, because every time you work on yourself in everything you do, for example, you see a homeless man and he's sitting in the street and he's freezing cold, and you give him a blanket, or you buy him a cup of hot chocolate, or you give him a sandwich, or you give him $10 or £10 Yes, you are clearing your family's karma and working with the genetic blueprint. Why? Because you have just moved into an action that is in alignment with compassion. And compassion is one of the highest frequencies within this universal structure. It's immunity because it's above the fourth dimension. It is a fifth dimensional and beyond template. So you don't need to worry about these things. Just be a good person. Be your own best friend and be a nice person. That's the key. That really is as simple as that. We make it so complicated, but on the other hand, we want to analyze the meaning of all these metaphors. So therefore, it can appear to be complex. It can appear to be complicated. And it feels that way because the brain is creating new synapses and there is expansion taking place within, and then we have to go back into a third dimensional physical aspect to sit and analyze all that and turn multi-dimensional non-linear time into a linear experience. So that can be difficult and challenging and somewhat complex, but very rewarding. But the truth is, it's as simple as being a nice person, being a good person. In the Bible, I think Jesus said, treat your neighbor as thyself. That's it. That's the code. That's the secret. It really is as simple as that. Treat your neighbor as thyself. Maybe not literally your neighbor. You might live next door to a really annoying neighbor, but you know what I mean metaphorically. So karma is just a simplified way of explaining that you are carrying a genetic blueprint for specific experience. And one of the reasons you are incarnated at this time is to change that genetic ancestral blueprint or to keep it, depending on its alignment with you and your life's map. So it needs to be in alignment with you and your life's map, that which you have chosen to experience, or indeed to upgrade it. And within this particular status, I put a little winky face there, or to upgrade it. And the reason why I did that is because if you are on an ascension path, that is what you are doing. You are upgrading your blueprint. You are changing the blueprint from a code for a carbon-based molecular structure being into the code for a crystalline silicate or silicon based molecular structure being. So that is what you are doing. So anyone who is in the ascension phenomenon, the ascension philosophy, walking that ascension path and doing that work, that's what you're doing. You're not just clearing karma for your family or your descendants or your ancestors. You are upgrading those patterns. And that is what is meant by becoming karma free, in inverted commas. There is no such thing as being karma free, if you like, but what you are doing is clearing the template and upgrading it. And that crystalline structure is a non-linear structure, and it's above the dimensions that are experienced linearly. Obviously, you are merging all dimensions together and you are still existing within a third dimensional physical body, and that is what is meant by taking your body with you. This you normally do in the usual way on this planet so far within our known history. That is usually done through the death experience and in the non-physical locational space outside of the physical body before you move into another physical body, before you reincarnate on a linear level. You are doing this without having to go through the death experience. You are going through a life review and a crystalline upgrade while you are still in physical incarnation. And it is, in the grand scheme of things, rather wonderful. It's a very unique experience, and it comes about for every structure, but it is a special, special moment. It's like a collective holiday, a collective Christmas, a collective celebration. It is a, when you look at the energetics involved with this, it is a sort of a huge rebirth. It's as exciting as all these cosmic structures waiting for the birth of a planet for millennia and millennia and millennia, and finally baby planet is being born. And you have all these amazing travelers from the far reaches of the cosmos coming to witness the birth of this extremely important and prophesied Christ consciousness planet. That is kind of the energy. That is the energy of ascension. So it's pretty wonderful, really. So, or to keep it, depending on its alignment with you and your life's map, or indeed to upgrade it. Now, when you do this, this will allow your descendants to be born without limitations, a pattern reduction placed within their DNA code. So what that means is for many years on this planet, within what we know as our known history, and I'm talking about after Atlantis and after Lemuria and the other civilizations that came before this one, we had a pattern reduction placed in our DNA code. Another long story, which I go into in many of the 9 go into many of these discussions about this DNA reduction code in many videos I've brought forward and books, but specifically in Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, there is information about the reduction in the code, the pattern reduction within the DNA code, and I will be going into this with the 9 in future books. That's what I feel the downloads are coming in regarding, because it is quite important. That DNA reduction on a physical level and a 4th dimensional level was an infiltration against our will. It was a hijacking of what we should have had, and it was a stealing and a taking from us. Within the 5th dimension and above, it was a choice we all made, and that's a very deep topic. And the only way to transcend the anger one feels when something has been stolen from you, something that important, or that you have been prevented for thousands and thousands and millions of years from experiencing a joyful incarnation, the depression and anger and hopelessness and frustration and horror that one can feel, which is normal, can be assisted by taking the other perspective, which is equally as true, and that is that we made that choice for this. We chose to have a reducted pattern, a pattern reduction within the DNA, in order to experience separation and free will and choice and all of those things that allow us to send back imprints and messages to the one original source, so that it may know itself. So, as I said, this is discussed in great depth in Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame. So this will allow your descendants to be born without limitations, because this pattern reduction gives you limitations in what you can do, how you can experience reality. You can only experience reality up to the limitation of your DNA code. There are literally multiple ways for you to do this, as I said. Your karmic healing filters into the wider world. So everything you do, everything you think, every action you take filters into the wider world. It creates that pattern, as I spoke about earlier, the quantum entanglement, that particles and patterns exist in more than one place at the same time. They are non-locational patterns. Your DNA, once you activate it beyond the linear, beyond the 3rd dimensional double helix, becomes non-locational. It is not in your blood and in your body only. It is non-locational. It's in other people's bodies and blood. It's in the environment, and it's in the cosmos, and it's on other planets, and it's on other solar systems. It's non-locational. So your karmic healing filters into the wider world and beyond your genetic line. So your genetic line being your ancestors and your descendants, this karmic healing, this ancestral clearing, moves beyond the ancestral and moves into this non-locational wider pattern, wider field, as you are moving into a unified field when you activate the crystalline DNA. So filters into the wider world and beyond your genetic line until eventually you are healing the planetary and galactic grids when you do this work. So when you move into ancestral clearing and working on yourself, there comes a time when that pattern reduction that may or may not have been there within you, or the pattern reduction that you clear, or the upgrade that you create, that non-locational aspect within your DNA is also a planetary grid structure, and it is also a galactic grid structure. So everything that you are doing within that expansive, crystalline, non-linear aspect of you, you are actually influencing or merging with or creating or recreating the planetary and galactic grids. That makes you a grid worker. That is what you become when you do this work. You become a grid worker. Yet you do not need to think in these terms, or even in the terms that you hold a family responsibility to clear their karma. So you don't need to think this way. You don't need to think, I'm a grid worker. I've got to be so careful how I feel and what I think and what I do, because I'm affecting the galactic grids. Oh my goodness, that's a huge responsibility. I can't do it. You know, you don't want to go there, because everything is within you. You are the galactic grids. You are the cosmos. Everything is within you, and you do not need to take yourself into a larger than life thought process. It's all to be part of a flow. And I know that that is difficult, because when you first come across this, it does blow your mind. But that place you are in when your mind is blown is an early place within your first realization. It's when the new DNA filaments and quantum strands are forming and the matching synapses within the brain. So you are bound to be just a little bit blown away by this. It's like, wow, what's happening to me? Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm seeing the world in this new way. Once you have worked with that and allowed yourself to go through this process, it's okay to have your mind blown and think, wow, and become very ungrounded. It's all normal. But then you come back to a center, you move into this calmness and this flow in whatever way is right for you. That is the next step to this. And that is when you're able to influence the galactic grids and the planetary grids, because you need to be in a state of flow in order to continue with the crystalline network link from your DNA quantum strands to the galactic and the planetary strands. There needs to be a flow and an acceptance within your emotional body, because when you go into the, oh, my mind is blown, wow, you burn out that connection. It's like you short circuit it. And it's okay, don't worry about that. Most spiritual individuals do this. I did. When I first woke up to this, I was constantly short-circuiting and burning out that flow. I didn't know I was doing it. I didn't have a clue. It's okay, because you can reconnect it. When you get back into the flow, that filament then recharges itself, because the charge you are using is a free energy structure. It is an infinite energy source. It only burns out when you are in a third dimensional carbon-based emotion, such as, wow, my mind is blown, I'm so freaked out. When you're in flow and bliss and you are connecting with the crystal river, which you would know as the Schumann resonance, and you are making that flow with the galactic grids and all of the kundalini of the earth and into the cosmos, it's a oneness, it's a unity, you can feel it, and it is simply a feeling of serenity, joy and bliss, and it is a feeling of alignment and centering. So when you're in that place, you are in a place known as the 0 point, and within that field is a free energy vortex, or a free energy infinite supply. It's an infinite supply of energy. And when you access that, That's where you find the ancestral clearing. That's where you find healing. That is where you find expansion. That's where you find connection. That's the place. And you can go there every day and allow yourself to flow with that energy. And this will give you energy yourself. And the reason why it does that is because it flows through your mitochondria. Your mitochondria is the battery for your body. It's what gives you energy. You recharge the mitochondria, and what you are doing is you are not charging the mitochondria through a carbon-based platform or template utilizing food or sunlight. Yes, you use sunlight, but you use sunlight within the carbon-based template as well. What you're doing is you are allowing the mitochondria to work in a crystalline sense. So you are nourishing your mitochondria in a different way, and you are doing this through this free energy source, which is found within this crystal river Schumann resonance flow that connects you with the galactic grids and the planetary grids, and that's known as the 0 point, or one of the explanations for the 0 point, which is a unified field and cannot really be fully explained or labeled because it is a unified field. You don't need to think in these terms. You don't need to think I'm a grid worker and the galactic grids are relying on me, or that I have got to clear my family's karma. That's a massive responsibility on my shoulders, but it's what I'm here to do, and I need to do it. You don't need to think in those terms at all, really. You simply just need to work on yourself in a not in a selfish way, but in a way where you are wanting to become the best version of yourself. If you are able to hold this expansive thought, such as I'm a grid worker and I'm clearing my family's karma or ancestral karma, and I am connecting and reshaping and restructuring and reforming and creating galactic grids and planetary grids, if you're able to hold that expansive thought without confusion and understand what it means and stay within that flow, then move into that. So it's okay to have that knowing as long as it isn't confusing you. So if you are there thinking, oh my gosh, what a responsibility, I've got to clear my family's karma, and it becomes a pressure, let it go. Absolutely let it go. Don't worry about it. Let the thought go out of your mind and just concentrate on what makes you happy and what you want to do with your life and where you would like to be creative. But if you are able to hold that thought without confusion, then move into that, because it is in itself, the thought pattern, part of the language of light, and in itself it assists your DNA when it's taken within flow, understanding, surrender, gratitude, and this peaceful Schumann resonance crystal river connection, this 0 point free energy connection. When you take it there, you are unifying with the DNA field and with the body and with the light body and the mitochondria and all those things. But you do not have to do this in order to do the clearing. So to do ancestral clearing, you don't have to hold the knowing or the template, because, as I said, you could be giving a cheese and tomato pizza to a homeless, hungry man, and by that act of compassion, you are doing ancestral clearing. And that's what the 9 said next. Simply work on yourself, your beliefs. Look at your belief structure, analyze it, go through it. Could it be expanded in some way? Is there any way that the belief you hold, whilst potentially correct, is there any way that the opposite belief to that could also be correct? That's a wonderful way to work on your beliefs, because you go into bilocational consciousness, and that in itself upgrades the DNA and does the ancestral clearing. Lifestyle, I've already discussed that. Nutrition, exercise, the way you are with people, the things you do, the way you live your life. Spiritual path, the choice you make when it comes to your spiritual path. It doesn't matter what modality or what religion. You could be a Christian, you could be a pagan, you could be a Gnostic, you could be an atheist. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because you are still able to do this work regardless of which path or belief system you actually take. It's all about being a nice person. It's all about being a good person and holding the higher emotions of compassion, love, forgiveness, joy, happiness, and the desire for freedom and liberty for yourself, the people you love, and the entire planet. That's really what it's about. And you can find that through any of those paths, including atheism. Every single starseed, light worker, or ascending individual is here to do the same thing in their own unique way. So that includes individuals who don't even believe in starseeds, light workers, or ascension. They can still do it. When we change a core ancestral template on the individual level, and we all do this simultaneously with others, we change the ancestral templates for all humanity and Earth, and that is ascension. So the core ancestral template within us, a template that has held a focused trajectory throughout multiple genetic births within our ancestral line, or multiple incarnations within our incarnational line, that core template, when that's changed on the individual level, so you're doing your ancestral clearing individually for you, because every other individual is here to do the same thing, starseed, light worker, ascending individual, whether they believe that they are that or not, they're still within that frequency. Because they're here to do the same thing, when they do that as well simultaneously with you, so you've got a critical mass of individuals clearing that core ancestral template, you then change the core ancestral template for humanity and for Earth. That's ascension, because you reconfigure the geometric structure of the planet and of the solar system and the galaxy and the time space or space time sector throughout the dimensions. You change planetary templates, geometric templates, that grid system, and you change dimensional templates. So what you do is you upgrade the planetary system itself, and you upgrade the dimension or the density. All of those work, whichever perspective. That's ascension, because ascension isn't just about you moving into self-realization and that free energy template and the reconstruction of your own template, your matrix, and the moving into full realization of your memories. The planet is doing it. All of humanity is doing it on a collective level, and the whole dimension is doing it. So you create a new planet, a new Earth, or a new dimension. And there are many, many people out there who are fully aware of this process. They've been aware for maybe 6 months because of research, or they might have been aware for 30 years because they've had that knowing there. Some have known since they were born that they're here for this reason. They might not have understood that or processed it, but they would have had that awareness. So there are literally millions, if not into the billions, 2-3 billion even. I really cannot say, as the amount of individuals who hold that awareness fluctuates, but it's a lot of people. And they know that this is happening, and they explain this in many, many different ways, which is why you'll see so many different teachings throughout the religious community, UFO community, spiritual New Age community, truther community. You will see so many different expressions of this one core truth, which is the move from one dimensional state to another, and all that that entails. And then the rest of the status was the 9% much deeper explanations of ancestral clearing in my third book, Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, which I don't really need to go into, but that is in that particular teaching, or that particular template. It uses visualization from a 6th dimensional geometric viewpoint, but you're still working with your physical body. It's chapter 45, Sins of the Father. there's a lot of biblical reference in this transmission. I asked the 9 why that is, and they said because the biblical templates have been part of those core templates for thousands of years, so they have become very formed or formulated within the collective consciousness of humanity. And it's not that they're being changed, because they're truthful templates, they're truthful core templates. They are being decoded. And the 9 have often spoken to me about it's time to decode the metaphor. And one of the jobs that I have as Magenta Pixie is to decode the metaphor and bring the metaphor, or rather, this is the way the 9 work through me. They decode the metaphor and show me how to decode it, and we decode it together, and then bring that information to others. I'm not the only one doing this. We are all doing this in different ways, but I'm doing this in quite a literal way, because the 9 literally present the core template, as in the biblical teaching, or the other metaphor, and that could be an ancient nursery rhyme or a poem, or it could be artwork. Metaphors are everywhere. And symbolism, the geometric symbolism, that's a whole other issue. And I will just quickly add something about that, but I will go into that further in another video at some point. There are so many people who see a symbol and instantly interpret it as a dark Illuminati, Cabal, satanic symbol. Now, whilst they are correct, please remember that the symbol was hijacked in the first place. All of these symbols that the Illuminati use are hijacked symbols from pure core energetic templates. So this is why you will see a spiritual teacher who is working with the light using a very similar symbol to an Illuminati, satanic, Luciferian, Freemasonry, whatever term you want to give that structure. They will use very similar symbols, because those symbols are coming from core templates that are outside of polarity. They're neither light nor dark. They are codes. That's it. They are codes. So when you look at a symbol, you are creating that limited reduction template within your DNA when you keep looking at the symbol that could activate you into an upgrade by thinking, oh, that's a satanic symbol. So then you won't go and read someone's book because they might have a pyramid with an eye in on the front cover, or there might be some other symbol that you think, oh, that's an Illuminati symbol. That person's teaching the dark, and they're a cabal member, they're on the payroll of the cabal, so we're not going to read that book or listen to that person. So you're not just cutting yourself off from the information from those people or from that book, you are also cutting yourself off from the language of light. Now, I'm not saying that the Illuminati symbols are exactly correct. They are often a little bit distorted, but they will be based on the original core template. For example, take the Freemasons compass and the little, ruler pyramid triangle picture that they have. That symbol, you wouldn't want to necessarily work with that symbol itself, although you would if you are in Freemasonry. And believe it or not, the light has infiltrated that structure as well. That structure will also change and upgrade, even though it was originally created from a seed point of a dark service to self intention. Everything is upgrading, everything is changing. That's not to say that the dark is not still there as well. This is a combined light dark polarity frequency. There is no one structure that is just dark and no one structure that is just light, and there is positive darkness and positive light, and there is negative darkness and negative light. So one has to be so discerning, and one has to be discerning in a multidimensional way, as I repeat again and again. So you don't need to take that symbol, that Freemason symbol, but you can see another symbol that reminds you of it, that's of the same shape, might be in a picture or some artwork, and you think, oh gosh, that's the Freemason shape. Why is somebody using that piece of artwork? It's the same structure. Because these are core templates, these are core geometric codes that are part of the language of light that have been hijacked in order to keep us in the reducted DNA template, which from the higher perspective we chose. But now we are moving into that higher perspective. We're making a different choice because we're changing the template. We're doing the ancestral clearing. It's all the same thing. We're changing the template into a higher polarity. We're saying thank you, all of you, service to self structure that acted as a catalyst. We've got it. We've got the message. We're here now and we don't need you anymore. We can do this on our own. We are now in the higher dimensions. That's kind of one way you could look at it. But again, that in itself is a multidimensional way of explaining what's going on. So I could sit here and talk about this all day and all night, and I still wouldn't get to the end of the concept, because the concept is an infinite concept, because all of the multidimensional concepts within metaphysics connected to this ascension process are infinite and out of time, as in out of linear time. And I do think we are literally out of time. So I will end this video now. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a long one. Hope you enjoyed it. I will be back with more. Just like to say thank you for all the lovely comments people are leaving on my recent videos. Really nice to read. I do read them all. I can't reply to many of them, but I do read them all. So thank you so much. And I will be back again soon. Thank you. Bye. In this transmission from the white-winged collective consciousness of 9, I, Magenta Pixie, bring forward information specific to utilizing the rose gold flame as antidote to 5G, EMFs, chemicals, chemtrails, and similar. The presented template utilizes the Schumann resonance, and the technique is alchemical unification. In this book, the 9 discuss synchronicity, discernment skills, and understanding of discordance and disharmony within truth and lightworker communities. They present a workable model of expression, assisting the spiritual explorer in creating a necessary toolkit. This allows the individual to construct a shield, bringing safety, harmony, expansion, and cohesive sovereignty into their own personal reality and their matrix field. I am pleased to present my new short book, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote.